Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome to a new Heroes of the Storm video here at Get Bonked. Today we're going to be taking a look at the difference between the Dragon Knight and the Garden Terror, starting with the former. Contrary to popular belief, the Dragon Knight actually has a trait and two abilities. The trait doubles your damage against structures, cuts the damage taken from them by half, and reduces the duration of all CCs applied to you by 50%. Your Q is a frontal cone breath that deals damage on impact and leaves a patch of fire on the ground, dealing damage over time. And finally, your W is a targeted charge that knocks the target back really far away. The Dragon Knight serves primarily as a sieging weapon, not a team fighting one. Before level 10, early Dragon Knights should be used as a distraction. While it pushes mid, the rest of your team should be pushing top and bottom as hard as possible. The idea is to force all 5 of your enemies to group up in mid to defend against it. This way, they'll be missing experience from the other 2 lanes and you might even get some early structures. If they don't group, then the Dragon Knight is free to destroy mid lane structures, possibly even the fort. When defending against the Dragon Knight, you also have 2 options. If all 5 of your enemies are pushing middle with it, you have to respond with the same numbers. If they're keeping 2 at each lane, you need to send 3 to defend against it while keeping 1 at each lane for soaking. The idea behind a late game Dragon Knight is that it guarantees that you take down structures, sometimes even the core. At this point, everyone should group up and push with the Dragon Knight. It's recommended that you have one of your damage dealers controlling it instead of your tank. The reason you keep your tank off of it is to disengage fights in case the enemy team hard engages on you. Keep in mind that the duration of the Dragon Knight gets extended the longer the game goes on, so you don't have to immediately rush right into the enemy's base the moment you grab it. If you're taking too much damage or are still waiting for your teammates to group up, you can simply weave in and out of structure range, dropping your flame breath on them. Now let's take a look at the Garden Terror. This monster also has a unique trait and 3 abilities to go with it. The trait reduces the duration of all CCs applied to you by 50%, nothing else. Your Q is a ground targeted AoE that polymorphs enemies, making them unable to attack or cast spells and slowing them by 30%. Your W is a ground targeted spell that spawns a plant that disables and deals damage to structures, minions, and mercenaries in a large area for as long as it lives. And finally, your E increases your movement speed by 30% for 3 seconds upon activation. The Garden Terror serves a very similar role to the Dragon Knight during the early game, but the playstyle is a little bit different. Just like before, everyone but the player controlling the Terror should resume laning as if nothing changed. If the enemies are not grouping up to defend against you, feel free to go ham on one of the lanes. If they are grouped, however, you want to start moving in between lanes, dropping your plant every time it's off cooldown, and guarding it with your Q. This will force your enemies to constantly rotate, making them lose lane experience. You should have either your weakest laner or a character whose death won't really matter, like Murky or the Lost Vikings, controlling the plant. Unlike the Dragon Knight, the Terror is actually amazing at teamfighting. You should consider having either your tank or a hero with very little utility controlling it. When controlling the plant, you should focus on polymorphing their front line to protect your carries and go to town with auto attacks on their backline heroes. If you notice that the fight is a lost cause even if you stick around, immediately disengage and try to get some structure damage using your W. When pushing alone, it's best to place your plant in the middle of the structure group in order to hit all of them at once. When pushing with your team, it's sometimes better to place them near your back line, only hitting the outer towers, but making it impossible for your enemies to destroy. That's gonna do it for this video. Thanks a lot for watching. I'm LOL, and don't forget to have fun.
You are not prepared!